Today we are going to be working with Steve from Resurrection Auto Detail, and he is a top-tier professional ceramic coater, and he's very kindly offered to take on the basket case that is my Jag. It looks great in some of the other footage that you've seen, but like a lot of people say, it's a 10-footer. So I'm going to show you a couple little areas on it that are pretty rough, and you know, I don't expect these things to get perfect, but I'm very excited to see what Steve can do with this. He's got a lot of experience, and you know, he's already looked the car over and thinks he can make a big difference. So take a look at this. Alright, so we're going to give you a quick walk around of the car as kind of a before, so you can kind of see some of the areas. The whole car has kind of the spider webbing and just scratches from being washed improperly or driven by bushes and things like that. But there are also some deeper, more challenging areas, and we're kind of interested to see how those turn out because, you know, again, this is extremely rough in some areas, and kind of, you know, I always looked at it as sort of beyond saving, and, you know, basically, you know, if we could actually improve the quality of those areas even a little bit, I will be overjoyed, and I'm excited to see how they turn out and share that with you guys as well. So we're going to kind of give you some close-ups on some of the areas that stick out to me, and that way you guys get an idea of what we're looking at as a before. And then basically, you know, as we go, we'll walk you through the process, and then we'll do some glamour shots of it afterwards so you can kind of see the difference, and you really will see a difference. So on the trunk lid here, this is probably one of the worst areas on the car, and definitely kind of beyond fully saving. You can see here the paint is actually cracking, and that's actually a pretty common thing with the Jags, in Florida at least. It seems that the paint just wasn't designed for the heat out here, and you end up with basically the paint, I think, expanding and contracting basically and causing those like splits. The other really rough area, and this is probably the worst one on the whole car, is going to be this fender right here. And I'm hoping the camera picks this up, but it looks almost like it was painted with like a roller or brush, and it's just super rough right here. So we're going to have to probably hit this pretty hard to make any difference at all. It comes all the way over here onto this bumper trim here, and then this right here into the door. And I have a feeling the car was maybe rubbed up against something, because you can see that area is ever so slightly pushed in. So I wonder if someone messed up while parking the car or something like that. But yeah, that's probably the worst on the entire vehicle right there. Coming up to the hood here, we've got this blemish right here, which has driven me mad forever because I can see it while I'm driving. And this one looks like it's in the clear coat, but I'm not 100% sure what it even is. It's a very bright white, and it's very focused, so I don't know if it's just extreme oxidation or something else, but I'm going to take a stab at that and see if we can't make that any better as well. Got some mild scratches along here. Pretty notable scratch right here. So basically kind of a diagonal one there. And then this guy on the front grille here as well. And we're not even going to get into the front bumper. Like every car, this thing has just got rock chips and nicks and all that all the way through. And again, there are areas that are super severe, like this is all the way through the paint. Obviously, we're not magicians, so it's not going to magically have paint on it afterwards. But areas that are milder like this, where it's in the clear coat or something like that, we have a pretty good shot at working with. Alright, and this is one of the last areas here. We got a bit of a dull spot where it looks like when they blew the clear on, it just didn't go on quite right. I believe the trunk lid on this may have been repainted. As you can kind of see, there's some imperfections in a couple areas here as well. So we got kind of the worst of both issues, which is the factory paint, which cracks in the sun, and then a respray, which it looks like was done by someone who is perhaps not the most talented painter. So, you know, it's alright actually. I mean, they got the color really accurate, but there's just some prep issues and things like that, it looks like. So you got like stuff like this where it looks like a splatter, like a bird poop or something hit the car, and it's actually in the paint. It's almost like in the clear coat. So again, just little prep issues and things like that that you notice after owning the car for years. They're not super glaringly obvious, but I think the you know, the ability to maybe cut down on some of those is going to make a huge difference. So next up, the important part, we're actually going to run you through the process, and we're going to kind of show you what it all looks like. I'm going to introduce you to Steve. He's been setting up here for a minute, And basically, we're going to kind of give you an idea of how it works, what happens, and you can see the work that actually goes into a professional ceramic coating job. If it comes in a squirty bottle and says you can do it yourself in an hour, it's probably not very good. So we're going to introduce you to Steve with Resurrection Auto today, and he's got all of the elements laid out that we're going to be working with on this vehicle, and I'm really excited to show you. This is a really cool process, and basically, I think a lot of you guys probably don't understand the level that you have to go to on a project like this, and we have an expert here that's able to kind of walk us through why and how and what's going on, so you can see why it's important to have the right person do this. All right, so this is Steve, and he's the expert that's going to be working on the car today. You want to walk us through the process a little bit?
Hey, yes, I will. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Hey, we love having you here, really.
People usually say they want to get a ceramic coating, and they say, hey, I went into Walmart for $15.99, I got a bottle.
Yep.
I wish it was that easy. Everyone would be doing it. So I just want to explain that what really goes into it, why the process is very in-depth, and especially on a car of this age, 20-some-odd-year-old car, why you have to do it the right way and not the incorrect way.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. 21-year-old paint, and I mean, that's tough to work on, so.
Yeah, you got to grind into it.
Exactly.
So here's how it all starts, if I may say. Product I use is Sonax, and in this compound that I choose to use, this has aluminum oxide in it. And when the buffer is spinning at a certain rate of speed, the aluminum oxide heats up. Aluminum, there's metal in the compound itself. So with something like this, we have our different grades of strength, let's just say. So today, we go with, this is, let's start with the bottom, let's go to the mid-grade, and we have to go with high grade today because it's ultimate cut. The ultimate cut meaning you have to do an ultimate cut in removing as many scratches as you can, either reduce or totally remove it. That's the goal today.
Absolutely.
After that step, we do this with this pad and this machine here.
So what's the difference between the two pads? Are they different hardnesses, or?
It's different hardnesses, and it's a density of the pad itself. The more denser the pad is, it holds this compound deeper into the pad. So over time, as I'm buffing, that compound goes deeper and deeper and deeper into this pad.
I see.
So they call it return. Return means every time I press onto that paint, this compound gets returned back to the surface of the paint. It gets absorbed by the sponge and gets returned back to the paint. That's what I'm trying to accomplish here.
Very cool. See, there's a lot of science behind this that a lot of people don't realize. Some people might just try and pick up a buffer, slab some, regular cutting compound that they find on there and have at it, and you actually probably risk doing some damage if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. That could be a chainsaw.
Yeah, okay? Absolutely.
The chainsaw can cut you wood for the winter or cut your arm off. What do you want to do? Right?
Exactly. And as you can see, we've got a good Makita buffer here. So, it's going to do a good job. And what's unique about that buffer?
Well, the buffers nowadays, about 4 or 5 years ago, the technology changed. It used to be a straight rotary buffer. They used to spin very, very fast, generate a whole lot of heat, but there was not much control, and that's why a lot of guys were swirling paint or burning the paint.
Interesting.
So about 4 or 5 years ago, they changed the technology with a company out of Italy called Rupes, R-U-P-E-S. Rupes came out with this technology where it only spin at a very high speed, but it will also vibrate against the paint. You have this going on.
Okay, so it's actually physically pressing down repeatedly on the paint really fast as well, and not just spinning. That's very cool.
Here's the visual to run with. The visual of a hummingbird's wings.
Okay.
It's doing this.
Understood.
And the old buffers were around 3,000 RPM. These are almost just under 7,000 RPM.
Okay, got it. Wow.
And then the compounds and all the polishes and everything had to change with it because it was so fast. The old compounds and polishes would just dissipate and would just fail on the paint.
Understood.
You wouldn't get a deep enough clean.
So you needed a better quality product that could hold up to the newer hardcore buffers.
The speed of the buffer, the vibration of the buffer.
Very cool.
This pad goes with this during the rub out process.
Understood.
Or the term nowadays is paint correction.
Paint correction.
Don't let anyone tell you any different. It's called the hardcore rub out. I used to have hair on my head. How about that? I'm showing my age.
Yep.
It was called the rub out.
Got it.
So then after that step happens, that takes about 3 hours, 3.5 hours around the car.
Understood.
That no $15 bottle is going to tell you the time on that.
Exactly. That's all the prep, right?
Right. They could spray and walk away, and it's not.
Right.
So after that's accomplished, we move to this step. In this polish right here, there's about 50% ceramic or so in this polish. Then this pad goes onto the machine.
Mm-hmm.
This pad is less dense.
Okay.
This pad will spread this out more like butter on toast.
I see. So it doesn't pick it up and keep it so much, it just pushes it around a little more.
Right.
Very cool.
And with the vibration and heat of the buffer again, this becomes the second step.
Understood.
Okay. And after the second step takes about another 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
This will add shine, depth of color like no other.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes the catalyst. It becomes the ceramic primer polish, if you want to call it that, for the 100% ceramic.
I see.
To adhere to the paint. This is 100% ceramic.
Understood. So like you said the word yourself, primer. I think, a lot of guys watching this will understand how painting works, right? And the importance of a good primer and a good base coat is where it's at. That's what bonds. Yeah, it's what bonds the product to the vehicle. That's what's going to give it its lifespan, correct?
Exactly.
And tell me a little bit about the ceramic itself. So you said it has a pretty good lifespan compared to a lot of those products out there.
This product right here, it's out of Boynton Beach, Florida. Okay, so NanoPro ceramic.
So U.S. made and made actually right here in Florida. That's cool.
3 hours away.
Very nice.
Great customer support if there ever was a problem with the product, but I've never had a problem with the product.
That's good to hear.
It's a 5 to 7 year warranty. Some guys out there who do it professionally promise a 10. I don't like going that far out, 10 years. Who knows if the car gets in a car accident? Who knows what happens? But just know in 60 months or more, if there's a problem, the problem gets fixed. But
that's a long time. It's a long time.
And what's great about the product is the longevity of the product, the durability of the product, the resiliency of the product.
Yep.
That is why it's called a professional ceramic coating or a professional ceramic application.
Yeah.
Think about it this way, I tell people. This is like car wax on steroids. Simple as that. It's got the muscle, it's got the longevity, it's got the strength for the Florida sun, or even up north, where I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, with the winter, with the snow and the salt that's pelting the vehicle for 6 months with no sun.
Absolutely.
In late spring and early summer, you're going to still have the same shine that I put on the car 5 years ago.
That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. I think that's a great way to sum it up, honestly. Again, car wax on steroids, right? For you guys that don't know about ceramic coating or haven't heard about it, it is kind of the future of that, right? You guys that have hand waxed your car a million times and are just tired of the elbow grease and the buffing, this is an excellent solution to where it's a more, semi-permanent solution that will last an extremely long time. It's significantly more durable. It actually adds strength to the paint.
Yes, it does.
Whereas a car wax just is an extra layer more for shine and water, dispersion, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
The term they call hydrophobic.
Yeah.
Hydro and water phobic, get scared, please. Water rolls off the car, bottom line.
Exactly.
And this is the applicator that goes with this.
Yeah. So tell us a little about that.
So the bottle itself, the ceramic itself looks like almost like water in a bottle, and that's a 50 milliliter bottle. We'll show you that later when we pull it out for you. And you put 4 or 5 drops on this itself, on the applicator itself, and you move it in like a 4 or 5 inch area. It hazes up in 10 to 15 seconds, and you wipe it off.
Understood.
That's how it goes on.
Yep.
That's it, and that's the final step, and that takes another 3 hours. So your average ceramic application job, ceramic coating, is usually between 10 to 12 hours or usually a day and a half.
Absolutely.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
our service comes to the home. We do it right in front of you.
That's fantastic, honestly. I mean, the fact that you're mobile and able to actually come out, I mean, you can see that we're out here at one of our places and we're set up on the driveway here. Whereas, like a lot of places, they'll be like, hey, you got to drive across town to our shop, leave the car with us for 3-4 days. Maybe they get to it, maybe they don't.
Right. And at the same time, I'm doing live time in front of you. I just know this. You're losing your car for 3 days. You got to make an arrangement with your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other, whatever.
Yep.
You don't have to do that.
Exactly.
I'm doing it right in front of you, seeing it happen in front of you, and there's where the trust level begins.
Exactly. And again, I've seen some of the end results that Steve has worked on. I mean, the vehicles that he's turned out, I've seen some of the Bentleys, Ferraris, McLarens. There's a gorgeous C2 Corvette that I got to see in person the other day. If I have a photo, I'll actually try and show it to you guys in the video here. But I mean, the quality of his work is absolutely phenomenal. So there's no one else that I would trust to do this on my vehicle, and I'm just so super thankful that he's here today.
If you want to catch us on Facebook, Resurrection Auto Detailing LLC, And at the same time, if you want to catch us on Instagram, you'll see a lot more of our work, because Instagram works very well with pictures, of course, and visuals, images. It's at Resurrection Auto, at Resurrection Auto.
That is perfect. And we'll share that link on our Instagram as well. And again, we'll give you a reminder further into the video as well, so you can check him out. But again, yeah, this has been awesome. I thank you for the information, Steve. And we'll run through a couple of these details again as we're watching the process happen, to give you guys kind of more of a recap. So when you see him working on something, you really know what step he's working on, and what the specifics that he's focusing on are, and things like that. So thank you guys, and get ready for this thing to start happening. We're going to start the cutting step first, and I think you're going to be very, very excited to see the way this thing comes together. So we're going to do a little bit of an initial test with the first step, right? So cutting into the paint, and as you can see, we just got these normal scratches like you'd have on any vehicle that you've lived with for a while. Again, this is 21-year-old paint, like we were mentioning earlier, and over time, even if you wash it, wax it, baby it, mine's probably a little worse than some, but you just get these small scratches and swirls and things like that in the clear coat. And Steve is going to basically work one section here, and basically, let us see side by side just what the first step does. Again, this is just the very first step, not even the primer coat and then the ceramic itself. So kind of excited to see what happens. We've got a couple of these little scratches like in here. I don't know, I'm hoping the camera can pick those up, but hey, this thing's recording in HD, right? So fingers crossed is coming through on your screens. But again, just getting those imperfections out, I think, is going to be great. So let's see how this thing turns out.
I don't know if you can see this, but I have a pen light. If you want to hold a pen light for you, you could see all these light scratch. I don't know if that'll catch it. Maybe
it might. Yeah. I mean, I think if we get right up on it, it's got tons of light scratches and just mess like dirt in the paint, right?
Right.
Very cool. Well, we're going to see the difference here in just a second.
Now we're going to bump the speed.
All right.
Now, friction, pressure, rotation takes over. And patience. I'm trying to reverse 20 years of neglect. And you got to let the aluminum oxide heat up with the pressure and the rotation of the buffer to get deep into the paint. 20 years of scratches, blemishes, whatever I can do to make something better. We're on a recovery mission, pretty much. Let's see what we can recover.
So there's a simple test that Steve recommended that anyone doing this tries, and that's to run your hand, the back of your hand, across the area that's just been done and compare it to the area next to it that hasn't been done, and you'll really be able to actually feel the difference and why it's important. So I'm going to give this thing a go. Oh man, you weren't kidding about how smooth that is. Yeah, it's like hitting the brakes. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, just the drag on the unfinished section compared to here, and that was just the first step. That's the wild part. You can definitely see the difference. If I can see it on this tiny screen, I'm sure that just the reflections alone in that new area compared to, oh my God, this is epic. One thing I really want to express is just watching Steve work, the level of attention to detail that he's putting in when he's working with that machine. I'm watching what he's focusing on, and he's watching every little area he's going through. He's making sure he's got the right pressure. He's focusing on the little details. He's not just blindly going over the whole thing randomly. And you probably saw he went back and over and just really was kind of checking every little thing with that buffer. And it's just something I never knew. I've seen people work with a buffer before, but it always seemed sort of like just a quick once over of the thing, or even if you go over it twice. But his is more focused on what areas need it most, you know, where the attention needs to be paid, and you saw the results. It's amazing. So I mean, he's working away, and we're gonna get some time lapse of him doing one of the full sides of the car as well, so you can really see. But he is absolutely meticulous. And again, he was explaining to me the importance of that and really getting all of the imperfections and blemishes out of the paint before you move on to those next steps, because it's just going to make it worse if you put their coating on something that's not done right. So I just stopped Steve just to kind of show you a little bit of what's coming out of the paint, and you know, also just to give you an idea of how much better this thing is looking already. And again, we're in phase 1 of 3, and it just gets better with each step. And I want you to keep in mind, this is the most aggressive cutting compound that he's going to use, right? Because of how far gone my car is. If your car is less far gone, it would actually already look a little shinier even at this stage, because he'd use a finer cutting compound. But because of the depth that he needs to get to, and he's using a stronger one, it's actually dull at the moment compared to what it would normally look like. So check this out. I mean, it is almost like a mirror finish here. I mean, you can see me in there, and you would never be able to do that before. And check out the pad here. I mean, look at that. It's all just crap and like a bad oxidized top surface that's just coming out of the paint, leaving nice, clean, flat, fresh paint underneath. So Steve, I noticed the color coming into the pad here, and you want to tell us a little bit about that? I mean, that's wild what it's taken out.
Yeah, this is what I want to see. I've been doing this for years. That's oxidation removal.
Okay.
That's 20 years of, you name it, oxidation, scratches, 19 layers of hand wax, whether it was put on by you or the other 4 owners before you, who knows. But that's what you want to see. That's the aluminum oxide in progress, in process, vibrating against the paint and pulling all that oxidation out of your paint.
So we're actually going to peel this tape here and show you, and you can see this has been protected from the buffer. Protected's probably the wrong word. It's been, you know, saved from it, and you can just see the difference in that area compared to the other. So this is after,
and then
before,
that's before, and then after.
Yep. So on the Jag, there's a couple of more serious blemishes, as you've probably seen. So Steve also, I mean, you know, he really knows what he's doing as far as, you know, what the best way to approach all these things are. So on mine, he's actually going to do a bit of an additional service of basically doing some wet sanding on some of these areas. That's going to be even more aggressive and actually more kind of focused on getting some of these deeper scratches out. So I'm going to show you what he's working with here, and I have a feeling that, you know, you guys are going to see just, again, the level of detail needed on this is pretty wild. So this is the area we're going to be working on with the first bit of wet sanding. You can see these scratches right here, and they are definitely deeper than some of the other ones that we were just kind of sort of working on buffing out. So Steve's going to actually hit this with, was it a 3000 grit?
3000 grit 3M Trizac sandpaper.
And there we go. So I'm going to let him get started, and you get to see what he's doing.
The purpose of wet sanding is putting 1,000 more, million more little scratches into a larger scratch. And then you proceed to go back and rub it out, or paint correct it, or whatever you want to call it.
So you can see what we're talking about, how it's kind of hazed up here. That's the area that we had to hit pretty hard to get those scratches out. But now it's time to get back in there with the buffer. Look at that. That is absolutely wild. And again, now with the sun, I think you'll really see on the door here all this swirling and everything like that. And then you come into this fender and just see how much better this looks. So you guys probably remember that really bad fender that we showed you earlier on, where it just looked like it had been brush painted or something. It was really messed up. So Steve's working on that now. He's done some wet sanding on it and is now hitting it with the buffer to blend it. He was explaining to me that when you work an area deeper like that, you want to kind of blend it in left, blend it in right, and then work the main area itself, just to get a smooth transition to where you'll never actually be able to tell that it was done with a more aggressive compound. So let's take a look at what he's doing. That is already looking leaps and bounds better. You know, again, areas like that, that's beyond saving when it comes to buffing and things like that, right? You're never going to get it perfect. The paint is already all the way through in some areas and has been touched up poorly. But it's like Steve's been saying, even if he can reduce it, if he can make it less noticeable, you know, and just make it that little bit better to where your eye doesn't get drawn to it, that's a win, right? And it absolutely is. So, you know, that fender and the trunk lid where it's all cracking, obviously we're not going to magically be putting paint back into those with a buffer, right? But, again, if we can just make it to where your eye is not drawn to it as much, it's a huge improvement. But areas like the hood here, where there's the spider webbing, those we have a good shot at almost fully removing. And, you know, it's stuff like that where you get that just absolute mirror finish, you know, pop. So, again, this has been extremely educational, and again, watching Steve work is like watching an artisan. So you can see, still on that same rear fender, and we've been at this for quite some time. This is not a job that you rush or just bomb through, right? And that's what he always says is, you know, you get to watch me work, you get to see the attention to detail that I put in, and, you know, I can tell you just watching him work, I feel fantastic seeing him do this, that I've got the right guy on my car. So as you can see, Steve is really working the paint there. You probably saw that bright white scratch. It looked like the car had been keyed at some point, and he's been meticulous in just trying to like get the wet sanding done and then buffing it. And again, something that deep isn't going to just magically go away, but it's going to be diminished to the point where it doesn't draw your eye. So let's take a closer look at the kind of end result of the buffing after that, and it will get a little better with the next steps as well. But check this out. And remember, we had a scratch that was as bright white as that one. And now it has been diminished a lot. So at a glance, you're not even going to notice it. And this is just phase one. Again, it's crazy. So we're already a couple hours in, and Steve's working his way forward now. He's pushed onto one of the front doors. As you saw, it's been rubbed down that side really bad. Like, you know, someone hit it with the old 1-grit brick sandpaper. And, you know, he's wet sanded those areas to really bite lower into it, and now he's polishing those back out, or so I should say cutting out on those areas to kind of smooth them back out. And, you know, as you guys have seen, the results are amazing. You guys are going to get tired of me saying that, so we'll kind of show you what it looks like in a second here, but it's unbelievable, I'll tell you. And again, we had damage like this all down this door, and that has been cut down by like 90%. It had been rubbed, you know, on something, like I joked, 1-grit brick sandpaper. Look at that. So much better. All right, so Steve, you were mentioning about the temperature of the paint. You know, letting that car get too hot, especially here in Florida, that can have a detrimental effect.
Right.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, heat of the sun creates oxidation like anything else. If I'm buffing a car and rubbing on a car like this, and the sun comes out, well, if the paint's too hot, the compound, wax, whatever I'm using at that moment won't have enough time to penetrate, because the darker color cars, your reds, your blacks, your navies, your blues, you got the idea, they hold a lot more heat from the sun. So that will affect the final, it'll affect the rub out, the paint correction greatly if the paint is too hot. Acts like a frying pan.
Okay, gotcha. That's interesting.
Bait shot too, you know. Like that. There you go, man. Wave away.
So as you remember from earlier in the video, this is what the pad looks like when it's brand new, before it sees the car. And then this is after it's pulling out all of the crap that you don't want. And it's like Steve said, it's the oxidation, it's all the nitty gritty crap that sits in the paint. I mean, just look at the difference. So all of that is the stuff that would be hindering having a good finish. And it also gives you an idea of just how much effort goes into removing it as well. But I mean, look how deep it gets into the pad as well. Absolutely crazy. But hugely important step. All of that came out of the paint on this. And he's still not done. He's still got a little more to go. But you can see why taking your time is so important. Alright guys, so we want to show you a little bit of a side-by-side here of how much of a difference the compounding makes. And we're almost done with the compounding, just a couple more areas left, but the amount of time it takes to do this properly and get as deep and even as possible is just astounding. But let me show you guys what we're working with here, and I think you'll really understand why it's worth taking the time and having someone that really knows what they're doing do this. So we've marked out kind of a before and after here so you can see. So basically, we got before, and we've got after, and you can already see the reflections, the depth, all of that has come back. And again, this is 21-year-old paint. Look at that. And we're almost to the point of getting into those next two steps that we told you about, and it's just going to get better as we do those as well. And I'm going to talk to Steve a little bit and let him kind of give you a bit more of an education on what the next step is and why it's so important as well. So we're going to finish out this compounding here, and then once we have that done, we'll update you on what the primer polish is all about. So you may have noticed that Steve's using the different colored pad. This is the one we showed you earlier. So this is the pad that's designed more to spread the product around rather than, you know, actually kind of keep it in one area and really have it work one area. And now that we've gotten through the correction phase, which is where you really have to like focus on the little details and things like that. This is more of just getting an even coating and building that real base coat. So kind of cool, the different materials and tools used, to make sure that each product is applied properly. So Steve, earlier you'd mentioned about how the front bumper and the hood are some of the most challenging parts on the car. You want to walk us through why that is?
Well, understand with the hood, we have 21-year-old paint. So we have age going against us. Number two, hoods are always the most difficult for two reasons. It's the heat of the engine that makes this hood act as a hot plate. So anything that falls on this hood over 20 some odd years, could be a month, could be a year, however long, bakes into the paint so much quicker. That's why the compounding and the paint preparation is so important before the ceramic is applied. But the other reason is this. When this car, you're at a red light and you have another car in front of you, it's that exhaust pipe that's directly in front of your car. The rear of that exhaust is blowing exhaust directly onto the hood, through the grill, and what's ever going on, not only the heat of the engine, that exhaust is just attaching itself to the paint in general, and that's why those two things make it very difficult to do an engine, to do the hood of a car, rubbing it out correctly, the paint correction, and the ceramic to follow.
That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, we were talking about the engine on the car. I mean, this one being a supercharged motor where everything sits right up top with the intercoolers and, you know, the blower right in the middle.
It's a blast furnace underneath this hood.
Exactly.
It really is.
Yep. And again, seeing how quickly the pad changed color when you were buffing out the front bumper, you know, compared to the rest of the car, it really underscored how much exhaust and just crap was all over that bumper. I mean, just such a small area made, you know, the same amount of impact on that pad as the whole side of the car did. So yeah,
absolutely.
That was an excellent point.
Yeah, the paint preparation is what it's all about. What it's all about to make the product, to make the ceramic absolutely perform. That's about it.
Absolutely. And you guys can definitely see the results. I mean, look at that. We can see his reflection in the hood there. I mean, that's something that would have never happened before. So
just beautiful color. Just a beautiful color. And let's try to get it back to the day one you bought it. That's all we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely, we're making strides. So we are going to continue on with the primer polish step, and then basically from there, there's only one more step to go, and this thing is going to be all you know, safe and secure, and it's going to look as glorious as it possibly can.
Well, you're in the middle.
All right, so we've now finished the primer polish step. As you guys saw, a little bit of a different process there. That's kind of the mid coat, and it's still very labor intensive, but basically the whole car has now been primer polished, and we're on to the last step. So I'm going to let Steve kind of tell you guys a little bit about what the final step of this whole process is, and you know, what is basically probably the most, you know, glorious finishing step as well. So we're going to cut over to Steve and let him kind of walk you through what's about to happen. All right, Steve, so tell us a little bit about this last step.
This is the last step, and this is the actual 100% pure ceramic. The ceramic my company uses is made in Boynton Beach, Florida, and it's called Nano Pro. Okay, this is the ingredient where you see the 5-year warranty. I even extend it to 7 because of that middle step, that ceramic primer polish. That's why I can give another 2 years on it, and again, that increases the adhesion, the stickiness of this product. And I'll show you how to put it on. So you just take a few drops like this, like that, let a few, even a little more. I'm real liberal with it, okay? And then I'll come over here, and you'll see it as I put it on. You'll start seeing a slow hazing up action to it, if you want to call it that. You see it adhering to that middle coat ceramic primer polish I keep speaking about, okay? That ceramic primer polish aids in the 100% pure ceramic to adhere to the paint much harder. They call it flashing or hazing up quicker, and increasing the color depth of it. So you give it 10 seconds or so. Put this down here, if I may. And then I'm going to take a towel and just give it a slow removal, like this.
And again, you mentioned the color depth. You know, for us at home, you know, the people interested in this process, that's really where it's at. You know, you don't realize how desaturated your car can look after, and especially with paint like mine, 21 years old, you know, I am blown away at how much color I was lacking, even in such a rich green. I thought, oh, it's beautiful. And now seeing the difference after all 3 steps of this, I mean, just the color that's come out of this thing after this full process is crazy.
You can take a ceramic spray like this, and just remove any residue if you so desire, like this. Now understand something, people. This is 21-year-old paint, 30 hours to do. You have older paint like this, 20 some odd years old, and you have a product like this with bubbles on top. That's the latest and greatest when it comes to paint protection, and it's a great 1-2 punch. Older paint technology and newer paint technology for protection.
Yep.
That's the kicker with this product. That's why we use it.
You had mentioned that like older paint actually tends to be at its core better quality paint.
Yes.
It's just that it's had the time to get worse because of how old it is.
Right. You have a car like this. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Yeah.
You have a vehicle like this that it was so abused before you took possession of it, before you bought it. You have to remove all the imperfections, or this product doesn't excel. So it's a treat for me when I have something older paint, you could really see the quality of the older paint really come out from 20 years ago with this product.
All right, guys, it is done. The full job, absolutely labor intensive, but the results are extremely worth it. So we're gonna actually show you here in just a second and kind of recap what we did. I say we, what Steve did, the expert. But basically, I think the results are going to speak for themselves. We'll show you guys some glamour shots of it out in the sun and everything in just a moment here as well. We did get some cloud cover, so we're going to cut to a different location, and I'll actually let you kind of see the paint in all its glory. But real quick, I'm going to have Steve just run us through one more time what all of this was and why it was also important. All right, Steve. So go ahead and just give us a quick recap of the different steps that we just did.
Well, you're taking 21-year-old paint, and we put 30 hours into this on 21-year-old paint. So this is a result of 21 years of paint residue oxidation in the pad. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimate cut Sonax. We said the aluminum oxide creates heat, vibration with the buffer, dual action buffer. You get this result. Then the ceramic base coat polish we spoke about right here. This is what eventually came up on the pad. Believe it or not, it still had some agitation effect to it to still pull out a little more.
Yeah, interesting.
Interesting. And that sets up for the bad boy. This is the bad boy right here.
Yep.
This is what gets the job done. This is what creates the durability, the resiliency into the paint in regards to anything sticking to the vehicle. And nothing will stick to the vehicle. Pretty much nothing will. Tree sap washes off, bird droppings, things of that nature, and the accidental scratching from a wife's purse, from a dog's nails, to your son taking the garbage can out of the garage and banging against the car.
And you mentioned here in Florida an important one, love bugs. They don't burn into the paint the same way. That's a huge deal.
Love bugs are acid base, and they burn into the paint, they bite into the paint, and it etches the paint. You can't get it out. So
absolutely.
It's the durability of this product, and then this is how we put this on. You saw in a 2 to 3 inch area. And believe it or not, this is hardened up over time, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So that's the same type of hardness you find on your paint.
And I can tell you just by like squeezing this after it's been used, you can actually feel the hardness. This used to be like really soft and cushy. You can kind of see on that corner. Yep. And over here, it's now kind of like not rock hard, but you can feel if it was able to turn a sponge that hard, you can imagine what it would do on top of already a hard surface like clear coat.
So I tell people this, when you have something of this age, or you have something brand new, we restored paint, we restored color, we restored its luster. You have a new vehicle, same concept, but we want to do is protect it from out of the gate. So we restored it, and we ultimately protected it the hardest we can with the best product you could find out there in ceramic coating. It's 3 microns thick. The thickest ceramic there is out there, and it appears on your Carfax, like I said, and a 5 to 7 year warranty.
Absolutely, and that's fantastic for resale value as well. Not that we plan on getting rid of the Jag anytime soon, but just to be able to say that it was professionally coated, protected, and again, you guys can already start to see the results here, and we'll give you those proper glamour shots once we get some sunlight. But I mean, the results really do speak for themselves, and again, hopefully you guys take away from this video how much work it actually is to do a proper job like this, not just a quick, give it a quick buff and squirt some stuff on it from the store and be done with it in an hour. That's not going to get you anything. So
if I may indicate this to your followers out there, think of this, we said wax on steroids. Another analogy, it's a brand new applied clear coat to the car.
Yep.
We've hardened the paint itself, but we applied a brand new clear coat on the paint.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost like a second skin over your clear coat. You're getting another layer of clear coat. All right, guys, so as promised, these are the glamour shots. It did take us actually a little longer than expected to get the car out for these. A few things popped up, honestly. We were hoping to do it next day, and then weather and all sorts of other things. You don't think about when you're filming, but I guess enjoy. I know this is what you guys were probably here to see, and I think you're really going to like the end result. So You know, I said it a million times in the video, you can really see the work that Steve put in, and I think the shots will speak for themselves. So check it out. Tell us what you think.